is just really sad and shameful that the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy and that they are unable to celebrate our great country. But the reality is, Mr. Speaker, this has been a great week for Canada.
And interest rates remain 20 times higher they were when that member promised that they would go down. Remember when she said the big risk was deflation and low rates? Well, she was exactly wrong then, and she's even more wrong now.
Debate in the House of Commons today as Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland looks to celebrate the Bank of Canada's rate cut, the first this country has seen in 4 years. But just how big of a party can the Feds afford to throw over a 25 basis point cut? Let's bring in the front bench. Saeed Selvam is the Vice President and Practice Lead of Public Affairs at National Public Relations. Former Alberta MLA and Cabinet Minister Gary Marr is here. He's the President and CEO of the Canada West Foundation. Former interim NDP National Director Carl Bélanger is with us. He's now the President of Traction Strategies. And next to him, that's Marika Welsh. She's a senior political reporter with the Globe and Mail. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Let's start off with the messaging from the government, Carl, today. And in particular, after the announcement that the finance minister came out and she basically made a minute-long statement, didn't take any questions, and said, like, we put the conditions in place for this to happen. She didn't say you're welcome, but essentially she implied you're welcome. We did the hard work, and now it's happened. What did you think of that messaging?
Well, you're trying to turn around a narrative that's been taking hold for quite some time. So I guess that was the first opportunity for them to do that, because finally there's a decrease in the rate, and finally we have something to celebrate. But let's not get carried away. And this is the problem, is like maybe there's a bit of an overreach, because the effect of that, the rippling effect in people's pocketbook, it will take quite some time. And in fact, when it comes to the mortgages and the way people have their financial activities arranged, tomorrow is not a different day for most people. So there's hope, a glimmer of hope, but changing that narrative is what they're trying to do, and it's going to take more than that.
It might take more, but this is at least, Marika, the first step. Like, I don't think they would have had chance of even trying to root that narrative in any other direction if this cut didn't happen at some point soon.
Yeah, and I imagine for the finance minister, she's been blamed for inflation for the last year, 2 years. So, the opposition
Not
are
her,
blame
just inflation. Yeah.
Just inflation, right. She was maybe speaking on behalf of the prime minister, but they've been taking the heat for the inflation. So, of course, they're going to try and take credit for, or at least insert themselves in the story, have a clip available to be talking about the good news. And it is good news out today. As Carl said, it's not nearly enough to change the trajectory for people who are renegotiating their mortgages between now and the election. But if, as was signaled by the Bank of Canada governor, that things could continue in this direction, then things shift even more. So, of course, this is good news for the government. I think there is, though, as Carl said, this risk of overplaying it. I think at one point, Freeland said Canada's on a roll this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure people are feeling that things are on a roll.
Yeah, Gary, I think what maybe we're kind of getting at is this maybe separation between the psychological impact of what happens today and going forward versus the tangible impact people are feeling. It's going to take, life is so unaffordable right now. It's going to take a really long time before it feels, I think, anywhere close to affordable. I can't even predict if that happens by the time the next election takes place. But psychologically, does this represent an inflection point, and could that impart an impact politically?
It's an interesting question, and I'm in the United States today, and my sense is that the economic indicators here look pretty good, but people are not reflecting that in their views on Mr. Biden. And I think in Canada, it's a bit similar. Maybe you've got some good news, but you have to look at how individual Canadians are feeling about it. So a drop in the interest rate, it's going to perhaps cause more people to want to buy a house. Housing prices will go up. And here's the issue, is that young people already feel that they're not able to enter the housing market. And people who are in the housing market, they benefit actually if their assets are ones that grow as a result of an inflationary cycle. So you've got young people that aren't happy. You've got older people that wouldn't necessarily be as happy with their set of investments if the interest rates go down and their, the nature of their assets don't earn as much as they used to. So it's a very difficult situation for the government to be in, where even if the numbers look good, they're still not making everybody happy.
Yeah, I think Gary hits the nail on the head, Saeed, when it comes to that tension between where rates end up going, perhaps even how the economy ends up going, and the housing market. I was interviewing an economist on radio earlier today who was telling me, like, don't look for there to be a general sense of affordability in the housing market until the end of the decade. And I think as long as people feel like they can't enter the housing market, that barrier exists, it's going to be really hard to convince them that their lives have become more affordable.
It is. And when you see an interest rate cut, especially of 0.25 basis points, it provides a little bit of relief. But keep in mind, economists for the longest time were expecting that when interest rates do get cut, whether it's by a few percentage points or a larger margin, you would see a rush towards home purchases. And as a result of that, you may see relatively lower mortgage payments monthly, but the housing prices themselves, the actual cost to purchase, will still remain high, especially when you have so much demand for them and such an undersupply. So that tension between pricing and the interest rate is going to continue, especially as those interest rates come down. And that's one of the biggest challenges here that the government will struggle with, is that while some people who are already in variable rate mortgages may feel a bit of relief, those that are still waiting to enter the market are going to have an even tougher time, because now they're going to be going into multiple offer situations or have to go into situations where they forgo inspections and also financing conditions as well. So it's a bit of a give and take, but politically it makes sense for the Liberals to tout this as a win of theirs. But for the most part, I think that Canadians writ large understand that this is just a par for the course thing after 4 years, that the Bank of Canada has been saying that now is a point in time where we can lower it by just a bit.
Just a bit. Let's see if there's a bit to come next month, too. I'm going to take a quick break.